All right. So we have Brusk. We're going to talk about lore, roster, and character design. I specifically put that in that order because of course, first comes lore. Roster really depends on the lore, and character design depends on the roster. So I feel like the three have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I guess we could get started on the lore of that. And based off of Ed Boon's tweets, we've noticed that he really wants to resurface the 3D era characters, which is awesome because those are my favorite. Those are my favorite characters of all time. I believe you and I share the same. Like, Deception's your favorite game, right?
Yes.
Okay, Deception is hands down my favorite MK game of all time, lore wise. Mechanics wise, MK9 all the way, but Deception is probably the best of MK that I've ever seen. So as far as the 3D era goes, as far as storytelling and the lore, how'd you feel about it then, and leading up to where we are? Like, how do you feel about it now?
Well, in terms of like where I think the story is gonna go, or what do I just my general thoughts on the lore, or what do you like?
So like, okay, how did you? So what pulled you into the lore originally?
Oh well, I think it was just honestly like how easy it was to kind of like follow through. My first Conquest mode that I played was Deception, because that was my first Mortal Kombat game that I played was Deception, and so like I think the Conquest mode, being the story mode in that game, was very nice start, because the story mode kind of starts like kind of before MK1, and then it leads all the way up until the present game.
Right.
And so following the story, even though there are a lot of inconsistencies within that Conquest mode, following the story through that lens, through the Conquest lens, the RPG kind of lens, was, I mean, like, how can you not be attracted to that? Like, how is that not like something how can anyone not get into the lore that way? I mean, you're exploring the realms, you're figuring out what these worlds are all about, what these characters are all about, and you're not like restricted to that character and that character alone. You're free to explore all these other things and find these other secrets and shit like that. So it was like it was huge. It was huge for Mortal Kombat at the time. And honestly, like if that was here now, that would still be huge, because we haven't seen that in a long, long time. So yeah, like that's what drew me in, and I has just been like a huge lore nerd, especially leading into my first time doing like Mortal Kombat videos and stuff, which was in 2014. And then MKX came out, and oh man, it broke me to pieces in terms of my love for the lore and all that kind of stuff. Which is weird, because at the same time, I look back and I do think MKX is probably the best story of the NetherRealm trilogy. It's just very boring, and it's just super like uninspiring. We're following characters that we don't care about. They kind of just dropped out of nowhere, and like our classic characters like Liu Kang, Katana, Kung Lao, they're like pushed to the side, and they're these weird zombie versions of themselves, and we're stuck following these characters that kind of just dropped out of nowhere, kind of characters, and a lot of them are not really that good. Like I didn't really like Cassie the way she was in MKX. I mean, she was better than someone like, say, Jackie. Jackie was just awful in that game.
And she got better in MK11 as well.
Yeah. Like I'm talking specifically MKX here. And like Kung Jin and Takeda was probably the best one. And Kung Jin, I think it's an acquired taste, mostly positive though. But anyways, yeah, no, like at the time, it just broke my love for the lore. And honestly, like I was still excited for MK11 to come out and all that. But then, like, as the game was going on, or the game was getting revealed, the more we knew about the story, I thought it was going to be like parallel universes, not like going back in time. And I was just like, oh, we're going back to like MK9. We're not getting the original versions of the original characters from the original timeline. Okay, that kind of sucks. And then there's these, and I'm just seeing all these inconsistencies and retcons even more and more and more and more in MK11 leading into it. Like I didn't even get to it. It wasn't even exposed to all of it. I was exposed to a lot of it already before the game came out, and then when the game comes out, it's all this mess and stuff.
It's almost like they showed the entire story in the trailers before the story even came out.
And I'm just like, I don't even know anymore. Like I still want to talk about story. Like I still want to and all that, but like at this point, I'm just like, you know what? I have high hopes for Onaga. I have high hopes for this character and that character, and for this to happen and that to happen, just like I had for MK11. But at the end of the day, there's something in the back of my mind telling me, you know what? You've been here before. It's just going to be like new boss, new OC. We're going to have like one chapter of the MK of the Great Kung Lao era, and then everything else is like MK 1, 2, and 3 again. So I'm just like, we've been here before. Do I want to do this again?
I really hope,
because I love MKs.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It is like kind of like that thing where it's like you go back to it and you're just like, you know, even though you have this like you have this feeling in your gut that you're just like, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
but I love Mortal Kombat so much. It's like you look back at it and you're just like, oh shoot, I'm gonna move forward, and I know it's gonna be bad, but it's never gonna be anything like it was. And everything. And you like, did you ever go back and play like arcade era?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have the arcade 1-up and stuff, and I have the arcade 1-up, and you know, I still like the MK2 is my favorite of the classic of the trilogy. And like that era is phenomenal. I love that era so much.
That was my first exposure. MK2.
Nice. Yeah. MK2
Straw Hat Pizza. I'll never forget it. So, but yeah, it's like arcade era was kind of cool. And Tobias, I'm pretty sure he did say that he purposely ambiguously set up the endings to where it's like you almost had to like use your imagination, you know, to create, you know, to create your own storylines. And even people, I think it's James MK was like, oh, you know, in MK1, if you performed a fatality on the first the first player in the ladder, that you therefore you're the bad guy now, and is like, you know, you kind of created the things as you went and stuff. Is cool.
I mean, it's a good way to look at the especially for the time, since there was limited, you know, characters, limited story, limited story just in general, to be able to like create all these things and all that. You know, that's kind of like all you really had if it wasn't, you know, the bios and endings already. So
but I still feel like 3D era respected it and like moved forward, you know. And then as like it was a big thing. I remember when DA came out, so I was watching, you know, Deadly Alliance, and like the initial the initial cinematic, Liu Kang is dead, and you're just like, oh shoot, we're moving into something new. This is gonna be dope. And then you watch it, but it's like, when you spoke about MKX, it's like all the main roster's all dead, and you're just like, back then it was just only Liu Kang was dead, and then there was Raiden being the mentor, and Raiden was teaching, you know, telling like the rest of the group, okay, you all have to work together now. Like that's it's kind of like go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I wouldn't compare it to MKX too much, because the classic characters were still there. There was a lot of new characters,
I know, I was contrasting it.
Oh, okay.
I was saying like it's completely different. Is totally different. Okay. So that's what I was saying, was like MKX was like, okay, all the characters are dead, and this one it was like only Liu Kang is dead, and all the characters now have to like work together. You know.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. No, it's true. I mean, it was almost like the heroes on a run story, which was really which was really nice. You know, that's a really nice way of taking a story. You know, the heroes are on the run. Like shit went sideways. Liu Kang is dead. Holy shit! Now things are crumbling. Now, you know, like, and it's a very interesting choice to have like two bosses too. Like, you know, to have Quan Chi and Shang Tsung be the boss, and they're not like these big, huge, like, you know, monster guys or anything like that. You know, it was Deadly Alliance was great. You know, Deadly Alliance was great with the story. It probably is the best story of the 3D era. Although I do prefer Deception, because I just had so much fun, and Deception expanded the lore, just exploded and stuff. But I think in terms of like a really nice like beginning, middle, and end story, I think Deadly Alliance takes the cake.
Oh, 100%.
Not to diminish the Deception though, but
oh no, I
Deadly
think
Alliance,
Deception
right.
takes it because of the way you told the story.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, definitely.
Shujinko, I like Shujinko. Say what you want about Shujinko, I like Shujinko.
I like
But
Shujinko,
yeah, not the greatest voice actor in the world, but still.
Mhm.
But that was that's what I miss. And that's kind of where that's kind of where I want to, we can go with this conversation, is that I really hope in the future that it's not just let's just follow the combat kids and this story, and it's like all you find is just this one story. It's like in the next, it's like I want to know what's going on with Ashra. I want to know what's going on with Natara. I want to know what's going on with Serena. I want to know what's going on with Noob. I want to know what's going on with Smoke. And it's like, I don't want it to be this one overarching story. I want it to know, like, what is the motives behind these characters? How do they play a part in the universe, even though they may not be they may not be directly tied to the main story. And that's what I think made Conquest so special.
Yeah.
Even
though the character, that's you're right, because in Conquest, with all those side characters and all that, like with all like the extra realms and all that, they may have not been tied to the main characters of the main story, but goddamn, was their story on their own very intriguing and very fun to follow and stuff. And it almost felt like they played a big role, even though they were a side mission. They were a side they were a side character, and that's okay for characters to be side characters.
They were indirectly a part of the story. Like they played a part in the story, but it wasn't like you weren't following like the main. It wasn't part of the main story. But it still had a part in it. But and then and then came what was it, Armageddon and Shaolin Monks. We had a little bit more of that action, beat 'em up kind of thing. But the story was still great. That was the cool thing about it, was even if you're playing as Taven or Shujinko, you still got to interact with these characters and feel the motives of these different characters, and kind of fall in love with these characters as you went about the story. And I think that's like one of the key ingredients that I was really missing in 3D era when you went to the chapters way of storytelling. It was like it felt hollow. It didn't feel like you were a part of it. You know what I mean? So
I understand why they did the chapter system, and honestly, like, it could work, and it's like it's a norm in fighting, not in fighting games. It's a norm that it kind of created the norm in fighting games, honestly, but it's a norm in just like games in general. And so like, I understand why they did it, but the villains never get a chance to really show their power. It's basically a training mode for the characters that NetherRealm favors. So, they're forced to play these characters, and you have to do like 4 fights and get used to their moves and all that. And so and we're following characters, and there's sometimes, like, I think for MKX, in MKX's example, like Sub-Zero's chapter was not even about Sub-Zero. Or there's there's a lot of chapters where you're following the character, but you're not really understanding what the character is all about. We're kind of just following the story. So if I want to have a chapter for a character, I want it to be about them. I want to learn more about them and how they play a role, and how it's how they push the story forward. Sometimes, like for a good majority of the story, some of these characters' chapters, they don't really progress the story. They kind of just they're already in line with where the story is going. They're just the character that you're playing. Like, it's almost like an NPC, it's like, okay, this character's turn, then that character's turn, then this character's turn, then that character's turn. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying and all that.
No, I do.
But like, that's how it, like when you're saying hollow, I completely agree. That's how I feel. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, it didn't feel like you were a part of it. It felt like you were just watching a movie, and it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. I guess we're watching the movie, and this character's, and we kind of get to play as this character, or we get to see it from this, in the eyes of this character, but it's still the same movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I don't mind the movie approach. Just like, I think it's just the chapter system itself is what makes the story just feel super, like, like it feels limited in what it could actually do, like what the writers could actually do, what the writing could do. And so like when you have the writing of a story or of a movie be completely like compromised because of a chapter system, I don't think you should have the chapter system anymore. You know, I would rather watch a movie and take those fights out and replace them with scenes that could expand on the character's lore or the Mortal Kombat lore in general. You know, like take that time to now that the chapter system is out and you don't have to do these fights anymore, replace them with scenes that actually expand on the lore, expand on the character, tell us what the character is all about and all that. So yeah, it's just I want the chapter system to go, but I just don't know if I really think that having like a cinematic movie, because that's some of the ideas that have been floating around, just like having a movie just be on the disc, you know, like where you play and you watch a YouTube video, which I understand that like I understand that's essentially what it is and what a lot of people do. Like they'll just go on YouTube and watch it and all that. But I mean, like, do I really want to do that like in the game? It just feels weird. It just doesn't feel right. And like the good alternative is just one more thing. The good alternative is a conquest mode, but I mean, like, is NetherRealm really gonna do that? No, they're not. So
I kind of feel like, I know you're right, but I kind of feel like they do. I think Boone tweeted that like we're more likely to do conquest mode. Go ahead.
A conquest mode, but not have that replace the story. We can talk about conquest mode later, like what that can look like in MK12. But I don't. Just the one thing that I'll get out of the way first is that I don't think if there is a conquest mode, I don't think it's going to replace the story mode. I don't think the conquest mode is going to be the story mode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because
do we want to talk about that?
No, because I'm like, that's how I think. It's like if there is going to be a conquest mode, that is going to be the story mode. But it's also
I would hope.
Right. That I mean, as fans, we hope. But it's also thinking about the 99%, which is the casual consumer base. You know, that's your target, right? You know, there's the fans, us, you know, in the professionals too. You know, that's like your maybe 5%. Yeah. And then there's, you know, or I don't know what the percentage is, but I know that it's mostly consists of casuals, right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, the biggest thing in temp, and I talked about it too, was that I think Conquest should fill that story, the storytelling role. And the reason being is because of content. It's because of having that content for that consumer base, something you can really dig into and something you can spend a lot of hours doing, you know, because I feel like DLC has replaced the unlockables and replaced the whole, like, you know, doing the side quests to get more coins to unlock in the crypt. It's like it's replaced all of it. And the crypt's not a part of the story, but I can go on and on about the crypt. F the crypt in Mortal Kombat 11. I hate that. I like the animation. Damn. I like walking around and everything. I thought the setting and the setup was great.
So you like it aesthetically?
Yes.
Okay.
All the puzzles. That was fantastic. That was great. But the randomization.
Yeah, randomization where you have to like it. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's like in MKDA. Coffin IV is Frost. I can tell you that right now. That's because Frost is my.
I don't remember that, but I know a lot of people do. A lot of people will be like they'll be like, oh, I remember where that's at. It's at this coffin and all that. Like some people would just like say it in my. I remember when I was streaming Deadly Alliance like a few just like years. I wasn't. Anyways, it was like last year or something like that. It was like last year or something like that. I remember I was like, wait, okay, hold on a second. I have to look up the guide because I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
but
you
like
can find
people
it,
were like people, some people in my chat like already knew. Like there was like, oh no, it's this one. It's this one. I'm like, oh okay,
yeah.
Well, there we go.
Oh man,
so, there's a lot of people who memorized it. Yeah,
dude. Back in 2002, too, we had, I think it was, GameCheats.com, GameCheats.net.
Oh, yeah. I know what that is.
Yeah, people would put dude. I missed that. That was awesome. But don't get me wrong, I actually like the idea of DLC, and if Boone's gonna stick to the whole like, oh, we're going to we're gonna make sure that we support this game a lot longer. That'd be great, because that's one thing I feel is missing, and then we can get into this in character design in a little bit. But it's like I like DLC. I played League of Legends for years. I like that there was always like there was like 2 or 3 new costumes every month. And it's like, it's like if I want to buy this costume for Diana, this costume came out this month, and it's like, but you would have like, now it's up to like 9 or 10 costumes a character, and there's 162 characters. It's a lot, but that's the cool thing is like like I said, we can get into character design and costumes later, but oh my gosh, it was like, I like DLC, but I do miss the unlockables. I miss the content that you had to unlock. It felt more like a complete game. Like Deception felt like a whole video game versus MKX and MK11 just felt like you're just appealing. There's just ladders and ranked competitive, and that's it. In story.
In story mode. Yeah, the single player mode. It's just it's the sad reality of where we are today, and like some games do it really well, and like the games that's it works for that and all that. But Mortal Kombat, being known for its secrets and all of its unlockables and all the things that we love, honestly, like it's just I wouldn't say it doesn't fit in modern gaming, but it definitely you definitely have to adapt to the times, and there's compromises and there's things that you're gonna have to lose, and and there just needs to be a balance. I'm a middle ground guy with everything, and I just feel like there should be some sort of middle ground with still keeping the secrets and the unlockables, but still having DLC. I think having DLC costumes is fine, but the costume unlockables, there should be a lot of like really good content that you don't have to pay for in the game already. You don't have to be. I don't see like. Well, it's not that I say it's not.
Like MK11 didn't feel like a $70 game.
No.
To me,
especially at launch. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with MKX. Didn't feel like there was more unlockables in MK, or it felt like there was a lot of unlockables in MKX.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go.
I was gonna say like to get, you had to do the ladders and stuff, and you get the tournament costumes, but also it's like, you had to in Honor and King of the Hill 100 points worth in order to get Katana's Revenant costume. Like I'm glad there was those unlockables, but it's like I wish there was unlockables in the single player mode, and that way the lore fans and the casual fans would have something to really go after. Because that's kind of how I felt towards it.
It's just I feel like they kind of did that with MK11 with the towers. A lot of the towers, you can unlock skins, but they were just dog shit skins. They were just like recolors. They were all recolors. There weren't anything special except for the Fire God Liu Kang one. That was okay.
Yeah, that one was cool.
That should have been unlocked. That should have been unlocked at the end of the story mode. I shouldn't have had to play 30 fucking stages. That was the Premier Tower or whatever. I don't remember what it was. Like to get that skin, like come on, man. Like there should just be like I will give credit because like I think they did like make it very clear in MK11. Like okay, this character skin is unlocked through this, and you can find it there. You can find it here.
Yeah.
But some of them were locked behind crypt events, so you had to like constantly be refreshing and checking Twitter every day to see if Ed Boon said, there's a crypt event. Like, why would you have to like go on Twitter to see if you can unlock the costume, especially since Liu Kang's classic costume was in there. Now, I think it was one of the first crypt events like since after launch. So I was able to get it like right away. But like for those who haven't, god damn, man. I especially felt it when I remember I got MK11. And I got MK11 on I got MK11 on the Switch, and I was traveling to Georgia, and I was traveling to Kansas City, And for the plane rides, for those two plane rides, I said, okay, I'm just gonna lock everything over there. But like I realized, holy shit, there's so many goddamn skins in this game. Number one, and number two, I can't even get most of these skins if in one plane ride. You know, it's like so like, oh man, it's just so frustrating with how much like. That's why I said there needs to be a middle ground. Sometimes there's too much, and like the stuff that you get is just like dog shit. Like with the recolors and all that. Like I hate it when they marketed the MK11 as like over 5,000 skins for all the characters in the game and all that. I'm just like, dude, they're all just recolors. Come on, dude. Don't do that.
You mean 4 skins?
Yeah, like 4 skins, and then whatever. However many,
and then
like
10 colors for each skin. I feel that there's and the thing that irritated me, and so Temp hated the fact that you had to get on in a certain time to get this kind of skin. I personally
hated that too.
I hate that. I that's why I don't like how the crypt is set up, because I'm like, okay, if I want the skin and I find out that it's in number GE, I can go to GE, or I can go to this place in the crypt, because all the crypt is like, exploration now. I can go to this place in the crypt and I can open up this, chest, and that is where the skin is. That's great. I like that. That's the things that I want back. I don't like how I have to do it timed. The thing that really irritated me the most was I played a lot of Combat League. I hated that in, let's say, March you were playing, it was this Combat League, and it was like you wanted this skin and you had to get to Elder God in order to get it, right? Well, you didn't quite get, you got it.
You didn't,
Or no, let's say you got it. I got it. December rolls around, and then it's like, oh, there it is, but it's flipped. It's on the bottom now. So just in case you didn't get it, all you have to do is play 5 games, and now you get it. So there's a little like
sometimes they'd be in the store,
And I was like, there is a little bit of when it comes to the competitive skins, particularly, now there's the unlockables, but I also think the competitive skins should also have some sort of exclusivity to them, to be like, oh, you got this, smoke skin for reaching Elder God because you got to that rank. And that's something I really like about with a lot of other competitive online games, is because when you got to that rank, you are known for getting, you can show that you got there, and no one else can get it unless they get there as well. So anyway.
I mean, honestly, like at the end of the, I agree with you said, but I didn't. A lot of people like hated the Combat League skins and how the way it worked. Honestly, I didn't really mind it. Like it kept me a reason to keep like playing Combat League and all that. Was it like a pain in the ass to get like to God rank or Elder God rank? Yeah, it was. But I mean. I mean, I'm pretty like I'm pretty. My mind is crazy. I like just like brain rotting Combat League and all that, getting like skins and all that. But like, I don't. Do I think it's good? No, but I personally didn't mind it. But yeah, no, I don't. Objectively, I don't. No.
No, and I understand, because me personally, I'm a very competitive person. I find satisfaction in Combat League and in reaching my rank, but I understand. Not everybody's like that. In fact, most people aren't. So, and I can understand.
It's like if you're, I don't know if you're familiar with Overwatch, but like it's like if you're playing Overwatch. Okay, like if you're playing comp and you have to get to master rank to get a Tracer skin, like fuck you, I'm not doing that shit, So I can understand. Like if I now that I look at that from that perspective, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see why some people would hate the Combat League exclusive skins.
So, we kind of went off from lore into like that. Funny how that works, right? So going forward, I've heard your take on where you think the lore is going to go. I actually don't think it's going to go in that direction. You would like to see 2 different timelines.
Yes. Okay. Because I was going to say, like, what is your perception of what my thing is? Because like, if it's wrong, I got to correct it. But
no. It's From your videos I've seen, and I've watched your YouTube videos, and I got a lot of time to do this. Like what I'm doing. Anyway, you want two different timelines. So it's like we're going to deal with the Shang Tsung and the Liu Kang one, and both are going to coexist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like at the beginning of the game, you have a choice to either follow Liu Kang's timeline or Shang Tsung's timeline, and both are completely not related. They're their own thing. They have a beginning, middle, and end. They don't connect. They're just beginning, middle, and end, and that's the way you go.
Right.
So yeah.
So the reason I don't like that is, one, I hate the time travel trope. So I want that gone. So there's a little bit of a bias there of my personal wants, but I hate time travel. Unless the story is about time travel, that's a whole different subject. But if it's Shang Tsung's timeline, everyone's dead except Liu Kang and Raiden. But if it's,
I don't know if that's necessarily. I don't know if that'll be necessarily true. Okay. See, number one is that, like, I don't think it would be time travel. I think, like, once I truly do believe they're not going to do Hourglass stuff. They're not going to do Chronica in MK12. Like, they may reference it. There may be a little Easter egg where, like, her emblem is on the wall or something like that. Yeah. That's you'll probably see something like that. But I think it's going to be treated as like, hey, here's a new timeline. It's just MK. That's it. You know, like, it's just beginning, middle, and end here. It's not like, oh, well, because I got the Hourglass, maybe I can change, this outcome, this fight. So, like, in chapter 2, like, I got to change. I don't think it's going to be like that. Okay. It's just going to straight up be like, okay, like, the end of it. It's just going to be beginning, middle, and end. Nothing to do with time travel.
Right.
Number 2 is that with Shang Tsung's ending, I don't know if everyone's dead. I think it's very possible that the Earth realm and Nether realm and all these other realms, they may be destroyed. They may be super, like, they basically, there's nothing. They're all wastelands and stuff. Doesn't mean the characters are dead. So, like, I could see with a Shang Tsung story having the heroes on the run, like, maybe the heroes secretly, Raiden and the other heroes like Johnny, Kung Lao, Sonya, Jax, and Fujin, they're all secretly forming an insurgency to overthrow Shang Tsung. What if Shang Tsung's whole universe is just built just because he likes to see his enemies suffer? Like, he keeps his enemies around, including Liu Kang. He keeps them all around, but he does that. He starts them off at a low point, and he loves seeing them go even lower and lower and lower. So I can see that being that's where I would assume a Shang Tsung ending story would be, in my view. Yeah,
the heroes on the run. Yeah, I mean, we could. Yeah. That'd be great to go back to that. That'd be cool. And I could totally see that working. But let's go to. I personally don't think that's going to be a Shang Tsung.
Yeah, you just don't think that's going to happen.
I just don't think so. I just don't think so. I think it's going to be the Liu Kang ending, because Liu Kang ultimately is, he's always in willful, like, he was always the hero. Now, if NRS had any balls, they would remain with Liu Kang as Fire God. Kung Lao would be the new hero. He's your new protagonist, and we would get to follow that story of Kung Lao. Now, I think that's where it's going to head. And knowing NRS and knowing WB, you're going to have Sonya, Johnny Cage. You're going to have all the main roster, Scorpion, Sub-Zero. Where a lot of people are going now, what I've seen is a lot of people are thinking, okay, it's going to be like, almost like a retelling, or it's like, how is this going to work, because Sonya existed in the the 90s and the 2000s. We're doing 500 years ago. Whereas I'm like, okay, Liu Kang said they will exist. He's like,
live again in my new era.
In my new era. This is a whole new era. They could all exist during the Great Kung Lao era, and you don't even know this is Great Kung Lao or regular Kung Lao. This is just Kung Lao. There could never be a Great Kung Lao in this era. This could be Kung Lao.
It is Great Kung Lao that we know, but at a certain point, at the time we're at right now, it's just Kung Lao.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
I
like,
get what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's like, at this point, I think it was like, MK11 was definitely like a bridgeway game to go into the next era of, in two ways, or like into both in the franchise of Mortal Kombat and the story. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to see these characters exist during this time. And what I really hope for is honestly to get rid of special forces. Get rid of, dude, let's go back to the mystical Asian fantasy meets dark fantasy outworld meets Netherrealm meets Chaos. You know, it's like all the different things, but it's like it was mystical Asian fantasy.
Like, like a Shaw Brothers movie, Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's
exactly.
what Mortal Kombat was built on. Why aren't you doing more of that? You know, so which honestly, like MK11 Liu Kang's ending sets up perfectly for that to be the case, and I really hope they stick with it. I'm not sure if they will because man, because you just can't. I'm a Mortal Kombat fan. I'm supposed to be disappointed. You know, it's part of the job. It's part of the job of being a Mortal Kombat fan. You know, so
yeah. And so it's like I kind of hope that that's the direction. So now what I'm saying is like this is the direction I hope it goes, and I really do, because I want a great story, but also it's like, okay, WB is going to want Sonya, they're going to want Johnny in here, and I think it can exist in there, but it's like they're not going to exist in the 90s and 2000s. You're going to see Sonya and Johnny in the past, like exist back then.
Yeah,
as this could be a whole brand new story. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that would be a good way. I think that could be a good way to like do it. Like Liu Kang just brings in Johnny, Sonya, and Jax in this period of time, you know, like they don't have the special forces and all that. Like I can see that being the way that they bring the class, they keep the classic characters, because they're just not going away. Like no matter what, they're just not going away.
No way.
It's just there's just a few possibilities on how they're going to bring them back and all that. And and I get your view, and honestly, like I can see them doing that 100%. But like the way that I would like be interested in seeing them do it is that like, well, they stick with Liu Kang's ending, and they don't have to worry about bringing those characters into this era. They don't have to. They don't even have to worry about doing ancestors of every single character. You know, we don't have to do ancestor of Johnny Cage, but he's still called Johnny Cage. You know, you don't have to worry about that. Just if the character didn't exist at that time, they're not in. But that doesn't mean that they're not still. They can't. It doesn't mean they're not still. They're not in the game. They're in Shang Tsung's ending or Shang Tsung's story and all that. So it's all the same characters, all the same stuff that we know, just in a different era. So that's why that would be, in my view, that would be the way that they can be on the roster. Again, I know you don't think that's going to happen and all that, but that's the way that I would like to see it. That's the way that I think could happen.
That's what I was getting at. Is this what is this what you think is going to happen? Is this what you want to happen?
I would because I think it's a good. I think having two like story modes to follow is just a very interesting concept. Like it's like, you know, like NetherRealm and Ed Boon always say like they want to do like next level things with everything, every Mortal Kombat game. They want to change things up and all that. Well, here's number one. You're changing things up. You know, we don't have two story modes. The closest we got was a DLC story mode in MK11, but we don't have two story modes from the start. We have we just have like two, like we follow like two stories that from endings in MK11 that both have fans. Like there was a lot of people who did want to see Shang Tsung's ending be continued because they mentioned Chaos Realm and Order Realm. They want to see that, you know. So it gives fans a chance fans of both endings to, you know, to follow that story, the story that they really wanted to see. So it just, number one, it gives fans a chance to see those stories. Number two, it falls in line with what NetherRealm and Ed Boon like to do with every single Mortal Kombat game, which is, you know, break the barriers, do something new, do like something that they've never done before and all that. I think it kind of meshes well. But yeah, I do hope that is the way they'll do it. I wouldn't bet money to say that I think that's what they're going to do. Like that's my prediction, but I do think it's a possibility. I do think that could happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and I would like to see that in NRS, or not NRS, just the Mortal Kombat franchise and the people who are behind it. It's like, so if you were to play a Street Fighter 5 and then go play Street Fighter 6, you're going to see that Jury plays very, very similar. You don't see that in Mortal Kombat. Going from katana, like I've always been like a katana main. So MKX to or MK9 to MKX to MK11, katana plays 3 extremely different ways, right? And 3 very different game mechanics, 3 very different stories, and that's one thing I think Mortal Kombat has going for it. You're never going to get the same game twice.
Yeah,
and
which could be a bad thing and a good thing, you know. I think
some people like consistency.
Yeah, some people like consistency, and also I think if you're talking about the esports side, it hurts that because you know these FGC nerds don't have a consistent, like they have to completely adapt to something new, and what if they don't like it? You know, what if they were really good at this game, but they really don't mesh well with that game. So there's a lot of good and bad to it. I don't know where I stand on it. I want to say I want it to be consistent, but at the same time, I really was bored of Injustice 2. It was so boring. The gameplay was just so boring.
Yeah.
It
looked good.
It looked good, but it was just so boring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even then, I don't know if it was because of the legacy gameplay, but it's just super complicated. At the end of the day, I think we all just want to have the ability to just do combos like MK9 and MKX. So I think if you look at those 2 games, most of the, even the competitive side, the FGC nerd side, most of them were able to carry over into the next game because, well, MK9 had a lot of combos and freedom to do that. So did MKX. MKX had its own problems, as did MK9, but at the same time, but at the end of the day, both games were incredibly fun to play. And I think that's what MK11 lacked, because it wasn't really fun to play. But yeah, go ahead.
No, that was okay. You nailed it right there. So no, that's pretty much it. So so as far as moving on to roster.
Okay.
Now, like I said, lore leads to roster.
Well, hold on. One more thing. I'm so sorry. Before we get onto roster,
okay,
I did want to hear your thoughts on the Conquest mode, because you think it's going to follow Liu Kang's timeline and ending and his new era, which I think at the end of the day, yeah, probably that's what we're going to have. But you think we're getting a Conquest mode, and that's the way they're going to tell the story. Is that what you think?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's interesting, because it would be super. I don't know. Like, for me, my view on the Conquest mode, because at this point, I am expecting a Conquest mode in MK11. I mean MK12. I just think there's no way they can't do it, especially since Street Fighter 6 basically has it. Like
it's true.
They must have known. They must have known early in development. I'm pretty sure, like, higher ups had insider info on what Street Fighter was doing, what their competitors were doing. I mean, that's business. They always have something like that.
I was going to say, do they?
I think so. I mean, that's kind of like how businesses work.
I mean, I'm asking you because I don't know. Like,
well, I just look at how businesses work. I mean, like, they always adapt to like what a competitor is doing, and they like bring what's working over there over here. So
that's essentially how MK4 was created, because they saw that the 3D design for fighting games was becoming really popular, and so they're like, oh, we should make a 3D game.
Yeah, so like there's just, at the end of the day, there's just no way MK12 doesn't have some sort of Conquest mode, especially since like Street Fighter basically did the Thanos of like, fine, I'll do it myself. Now that I'm not gonna do it, fuck, I'll do it myself. So but yeah, like, but I just don't think I'm not really sold on it replacing the chapter system. I do think that it's going to be the crypt again, but it's going to have a lot more lore. You can explore more realms. You can do basically everything in a Conquest mode, but it's the main thing is that's where you unlock your stuff in a crypt. Like, that's where you unlock the crypt. Or like that's where you get your crypt content. Like, if you want unlockables, you go to that mode. It's basically the crypt from MK11, 2.0, like mega upgraded version edition.
Mhm.
You know, like it has all the things that we like about Conquest mode, but it's not really a story. Now there might be a lot of lore involved. There
Mhm.
might be like a lot of like cool notes that you can like find like on the floor and stuff, and then it gives you like a brief history on what this character was doing, what that character was doing, what this
Mhm.
character is all about, and all that. So it can have all that lore stuff that
Mhm.
Deception Conquest had and all that, but it's not going to be the story mode. That's my prediction for the crypt. I mean, I'm sorry, the conquest mode.
What do
of
you know?
MK12.
Do you know something we all don't? Like,
No, I don't. I'm just saying that. Like, I just don't see them replacing
Okay.
the chapter system. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that they see. There's good arguments. I'm trying to. Okay. My mind's all over the place.
It's okay.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of I don't think there's a lot of popularity to be gained from a chapter system, because look, when you go on YouTube and you look up, MKX full movie, MK9 full movie, and Injustice 2 full movie, those games get millions and millions and millions of views. But I don't think you would really get that in a conquest mode. Like, it brings in a lot of popularity, it brings in a lot of eyes. And when you take that away, or you take it away and you tell the story in a way that's not really the way a lot of people are in a way that it's very popular. I don't know. I think that looks bad on your game. It may be good for the storytelling perspective, but in terms of like how they market the game and how they want the game to be perceived,
Okay.
I don't know.
I disagree. I think that conquest mode could be a very, if done correctly, it could be a very good way of telling a story. In that, like, for instance, like you said, we can go, you can go on YouTube and watch the entire MK11 story and just watch the full movie and stuff, and that's great. But you can also I think that you can do the same thing, because I have done that with Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because when I had a little brain fart right there, I can see the argument against what I was saying is that, like, we have games like God of War, we have games like Assassin's Creed, we have games like Ghost of Tsushima, where it is like a conquest, like the entire game is like a conquest mode, and there's still like the full movie version that a lot of people watch. And, so I get that. Yeah, I get that.
I think you can.
I don't know if WB is smart enough to know that. I don't have faith that they know that they can take a different angle.
Didn't they do Shadows of Mordor?
I don't know much about that game, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah,
bro, that's such a good game. That's such a good game.
Yeah,
I think yeah.
Well, we'll just have to see. Like, you think it's going to be the story, the new way of the story mode. I think it's just going to be the Crypt Mega Edition, like, where it is MK11 Crypt, but you can still explore the realms, you can still do this, you can still do that. Like, you basically can do all the things in Conquest, but it's not the way the story is going to be told.
Okay.
It still has the lore bits and all that, but it's just not the storytelling.
You know what? I can see it. I can really see that. I can see you going to Netherrealm, going to this area, doing this quest or doing this thing, and receiving this item, receiving this reward, whatever, for doing said thing, just like you would in a conquest mode, and that doesn't have to pertain to the story. Yeah. With that, which tells me, if that is true, we'd also get like create a combatant. We would probably,
I hope so. Or you can like switch between all the characters in the roster, like your avatar can be whoever you want it to be. So yeah, I hope so. I would love that.
Either way, I think it's great for content, whether it's conquest mode as in the story or conquest mode as in giant mega crypts, like you're saying. Like, either way, I think that would be great for content.
Yeah. Single player content too, which MK11 lacked.
Yes. That's so I'm not disagreeing as in I dislike it. I just think the conquest mode is going to take heed of the story, but if they did go with the direction that you're proposing or you're predicting, I would not be disappointed.
Yeah,
I would be okay with that.
Like, your route, like the way you think is going to be, like, duh, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's the, I mean, we were talking about at the beginning of this
Yeah.
this video, or
Like
this,
why we
podcast
loved
thing.
Conquest. Conquest
Yeah,
was so
why we
good.
like Conquest,
Yes.
how I got into the lore, how I
Right.
became a lore nerd. So like
Mhm.
I'm going back to the thing that made me fall in love with the lore. So
Right.
yeah, of course I'd be happy with it. It's just not the way I think it's gonna happen,
Okay.
unfortunately. But yeah.
So yeah, that's just the way I think it. And I kind of in the way I think things are going to pan out, I think Conquest mode is going to take heed of the story, and I think that we're going to go through it in the same, not in the same manner as we did in Deception. I think it's going to be a little bit different, but still the storytelling I think is going to be kind of similar. I don't think you're going to follow in the footsteps of Shujinko. I think you're probably going to be able to create your own combatant.
Either that, or like the game has a mode, has like it's like a story mode, and then there's like a free play mode, like Lego games. So you can explore all the different, like, like in Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, you can explore all the different planets and all that, but there's a story mode still, and there's a free play mode. So yeah, honestly, I think the modern, I mean, I have the most recent Lego Star Wars game. Like there's a story mode, and you still have like objectives to complete, but you can switch your character like while you're exploring, the planet, or like if you're on Mustafar and all that. You can still change your character, but like there's like an area, there's like a little like blue like indicator say like, okay, like you go here, and it's like blue little aura on the floor, and a little arrow saying like like telling you to go here, and you go there, and you continue the story, then you switch back to like the character you're supposed to follow for the story. So yeah, I can see them doing that for Conquest mode too, like for a Conquest mode story mode.
Yeah, because Ed Boon has stated his interest in RPGs.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibilities at all. And I mean, at this point, like anything can go, because I think, I mean, they're not like as much doubt goes around about. I have more doubt in WB than I do with NRS. I think that NRS, particularly with Ed, the analogy that I use is like Ed Boon is like a hungry dog that just wants to just let his get off his leash and be able to say everything that he wants to say, but because of his leash, aka non-disclosure agreements that he had to sign, he's not allowed to say the things he wants to.
You can totally tell, especially he kind of makes it obvious sometimes. Like I think I remember at MK11 he was like, guys, I know you guys are waiting for this character or for this trailer and all that. There's so much shit going on, I can't tell you, but I promise you it's happening. Like he's so like, you can tell that he's like, he gets frustrated sometimes.
He's sitting there and he's like, 23. I really want to 23. It's like that's probably not gonna 23. That's probably not gonna So you could tell he's just like I
know what you guys are feeling. Like I want to say things, I just can't do it. Like I just can't do it. Like if I do, I'm gonna get in trouble. Like he'll say that, like I'm gonna get in trouble, guys. I'm gonna get in trouble if I say anything.
I think he literally said that one time. He literally said,
he says that a lot.
I want to tell you, but I can't. With a K, can't with a K.
Trying to make it try to put the little humor on it. Try to put the little humor on it because inside he's like really wanted to boom. Yeah, that's too dark. But but like inside he's like super fucking stressed.
Harakiri himself. But exactly. But anyway. So
I interrupted you. We wanted to go to the character design or roster?
Roster. I went to roster because I feel like lore leads to roster. Roster leads to character design. So roster, which is initially when we first talked. When I first initially like contacted you about that, you were like, "Let's talk about roster." Now, here's the thing about roster. For a long time, whenever I talk about Mortal Kombat, particularly the guys I talk to about Mortal Kombat, we usually talk about gameplay mechanics. And we would talk about, and the reason why we don't talk about roster so much is because we were just kind of so sick and tired about talking about roster. And if you go on Twitter, it's like,
sorry that I wanted to talk to you guys. Talk to you about it.
No. This is going to come full circle, I promise.
I know. I got you.
But it's like, is because we're just always talking about roster, always talking about what characters we want, what character wasn't, how disappointed we were that this character wasn't in this previous game, how for whatever reason MKX did not have Fusion and at least a Nemra Anemra, like how'd you Smoke's name when he died?
Anenra,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Is like why those two characters were not in it were beyond me. You know, it's in Frost too. But it's like, we talk about just roster so much, but the reason why it comes full circle is because you kind of have this realization how important it actually is for the roster. And that is why we talk about it so much. And I'm sure, I am positive that every single employee at NetherRealm Studios is probably just like, gosh dang it, would you guys stop asking for these characters already? This is we already have it. Like, you know, that's the first thing they probably talk about is like, okay, we're gonna make our 28 character roster, you know, we're gonna make our 30 character roster. This is starting, this is DLC, this is who we're going to put in, this is who we're allowed to put in. Okay, we should start contacting WB and DC, who's going to be our guest characters. We should start contacting, you know, New Line Cinema and stuff like that. That you know, that's like step one. Is character roster designs, or designs probably the last step. Is like, okay, who's going to be in it? Okay, let's write the story around it. Now let's design them. I'm assuming that's how it would go, right?
Yeah.
But you realize like how important it actually is, because when I talk to a lot of the guys in Discord who are over Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat is a fond past memory to them. They will go back to MK9 and 3D era, but they refuse to talk about Mortal Kombat X. All have said, I will come back to Mortal Kombat if the roster is decent. That's like, I was like, really, roster, like mechanics? And they're like, no, if I can play as Ashura again, if I can play as Serena again, which by the way are the two characters that I want most in this game. They're like, okay, that's who I want. Like, that will bring me back to Mortal Kombat. And so that's why roster is that important.
It's a little bit weird when they word it like, because like I do think MK11 has a good roster. I know it lacks 3D era characters, and I want more.
I agree with you. It does have a good roster,
but
I agree.
But a lot of those classic characters, I know the people you're talking about. I know they're tired of seeing classic characters all the time, but a lot of them. We asked for those characters in MKX, you know, like we wanted those characters. Those are like, they basically added almost every single most requested character from MKX into MK11, almost all of them. Lack 3D era characters, yeah, it did. So like when they say that, they're just saying that they want more 3D era characters, and honestly, that's a perfectly valid reason to like to want to come back and want a roster.
And I'm not saying that they're saying like we're sick of legacy characters.
Yeah,
it's not
some people do say that though, and
you're right. You're 100. You're right. There are some people who are like, I'm sick of Sonya. I don't want to see Kano, Kano, and that's valid. Kano is valid. And what's really funny too is the reason why Sonya and Kano were not in Mortal Kombat 2. Because they were the least popular characters in Mortal Kombat 1. So that doesn't carry over anymore.
No, especially with the legacy of like what people know about Mortal Kombat now. I mean, Sonya is more popular than she was when MK1 came out. You know? So is Kano, especially with the new movie that came out. Everybody loved Kano. Nobody could stop talking about Kano after that new movie came out. And I definitely think that.
Are you talking about Snowblind?
No. I'm talking about the live action movie.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, nobody could stop talking. Well, even Snowblind too, but like more so the live action one. And and like going back to the 95 movie, the 95 movie popularized Mortal Kombat a lot, and those characters that were in it, like the MK1 characters. I don't think Johnny would be as popular as he is today if the 95 movie didn't exist. So. And MK9, I think the 95 movie and MK9 like changed the way people view Johnny Cage, because I think if you ask people who are veterans of MK, a lot of people saw Johnny Cage as like as a joke character, as like a haha, he's cheesy and all that. But now a lot of people really like that. He's still that, but they really like Johnny. They really don't want to see him go.
He's one of the most popular. Like, I can't think of someone who doesn't like him. I'll put it that way. I can't think. I like him, especially.
I love Johnny Cage. Yeah,
especially in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah,
I actually
it's great.
the bantering between his younger self and older self, that was one of the most fantastic writing I've seen, dude. It was so fun. It was so funny to watch.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. But as far as like, yeah, we don't argue, and you're right about the 3D era thing. We don't argue over who would want, or not even argue. We discuss who we want in the game, and it's always over Smoke, Frost, Natara. It's always over not legacy characters. In fact, it's always over like far beyond characters like Ashra. It's, you know, or Serena, or, you know, it's all,
I think
all these...
today there's a huge, like, people just want to see the 3D era characters again, because the people who like, people like me, who I'm only 23 years old, you know, I grew up with the 3D era, you know, like it's almost the Star Wars effect where, you know, people who grow up with the prequels are now older, like they're either my age or older, or a little bit younger sometimes, and but they're old enough to really have their voice heard and have that, like, there's a growing, you know, there's a growing new, like, generation of fans. And so that's the same with the 3D era. A lot of people like me grew up with the 3D era, and we want to see those characters again, because that was our Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Now, again, I understand, and I'm 100% on board with the trilogy cast is priority first. Get as many of those characters as you can, a healthy amount, and put them in your main roster. But also, again, you got to please the fan base, the part of the fan base that grew up with the other side of Mortal Kombat, which is the 3D era, and put those characters on your roster and all that. So again, like what I was going back to what I was saying, I'm a middle ground guy. There has to be a balance. There has to be I'm not saying like 10 classics, 10 3D era, but like a good amount of 3D era, like 5 that we haven't seen in a long time, 5 that isn't always Quan Chi, Kenshi, and Tanya sometimes. So like, you know, it's just a balance. We got to have a balance now, because there's two sides of the Mortal Kombat fan base when it comes to like a roster discussion. Yeah.
No, and you're absolutely right. I think there does need to be a balance. There definitely needs to be like workaround in there, and yeah, it's a hard one, because I mean, imagine working there and just being like, okay, we need to bring in these characters. These are highly requested characters. These are in. That's a good. You know, I never thought about that too, to be honest, because especially with that Star Wars analogy.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know, I was raised with classic, you know, Star Wars.
Yeah. Classic Star Wars.
Yeah, and then
which is best Star Wars, by the way. Best Star, like, you know, I grew up with the prequels too, but like, honestly, I wasn't a fan of the prequels even when I was a kid. But anyways,
right?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No. It was funny. It was funny. There was one time I was listening to a podcast, and the guy it was on Star Wars, and they had a guest on who's like a, you know, Star Wars, you know, historian essentially, and he was like, they're like, so what's your favorite episode? And they did this like top, you know, like top 5 favorites and stuff like that. His favorite episode was episode 1, and everyone was like,
damn.
what? Like it was like, wait, back up. And why? And his reason being was because that's my first Star Wars. That was my first exposure to Star Wars. That's the Star Wars I know and I love. So it's like, imagine, you know, Brusk is here, and he's like, oh, my first was Deception. Like that was the first time I ever, Deception is what I know. This is what I love. This is my favorite game. And all of a sudden I'm going to go Deception came out in 2005, right? 2005 or 2004?
2004. No. Was it? Because it was 2004, because Deadly Alliance came out in 2002. So 2 years later it was Deception. Yeah.
Right. And then 2006 is when Armageddon came out. Yeah. So it's 2 years. Okay. So 2005 is when Deception came out. Right. And so now it's 2005. So let's skip forward, I don't know, 20 years later. 2006. Okay. So we're going to skip forward 17 years later, I think. If my math is terrible. Well, we haven't seen Ashra since Armageddon.
We haven't seen Ashra. We haven't seen Ashra since Armageddon. We haven't seen Havoc since Armageddon. We haven't really had Serena in a proper roster. You know, she had to be on Armageddon's roster and all that. there's so many characters that we haven't seen
And
in a
revert back to that, by the
long
way.
time.
I want to go back to lore just for a second.
Yeah.
Serena is my favorite character.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why, she has arguably the most plot potential than any other character in the entire series. Yeah. There are so many directions. Go ahead.
No, I was asking like what are the directions? Yeah.
Oh, she could be a puppet for Quan Chi, even out like still loyal to him after he's dead. She can go on to join the Lin Kuei and become romantically involved with Kuai Liang. She can go on to join the Lin Kuei because she fulfilled her promise to be Han, and she could have tie-ins with Frost. She can have tie-ins with Nightwolf because trying to cleanse her soul, in the way that he did with Shujinko with deception. She could. There's infinite possibilities with Serena on all the different directions that you can go with her.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
She has so much potential to be a very viable and very important character in the Mortal Kombat universe. And imagine, okay, Quan Chi is gone, okay, and let's say she's not loyal to Quan Chi. Let's say that she's joined the Lin Kuei or joined up with Nightwolf to learn about the Madoka and how they do their thing. Say she's joined up with...
Or she teams up with the Earthrealmers who have trouble with the Netherrealm and they need help with people who are involved in the Netherrealm.
And she has so much knowledge of the Netherrealm, or so much knowledge of Quan Chi's magic, and sorcery.
Which I will say, MKX, I'm glad they did touch up on that.
They did,
even if it was brief. Yeah, even if it was brief. Yeah,
but it's like she potentially could be one of, if not the most important character. She could possibly be a main hero outside of Kung Lao, or one of. She has so much potential to touch on that it still is like, why haven't we talked about this character more?
I feel like I say the same with Ashra. I mean, Ashra's been
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like Ashra's been slaying demons for God knows how long. We've had a lot of Netherrealm trouble in these NRS stories. Why haven't we encountered Ashra? Like, after all this time, you wouldn't think that Ashra's Chris would be a nice tool to use to restore the Revenants? Like, you couldn't think of that idea? Like, if my stupid ass brain can think of that, how could somebody with a job to think about that shit not think about that? It's like, how has Ashra not showed up yet? It's so like, it's so mind-boggling. Like she's my second most wanted character. The only the top two I have is Havoc and Ashra. Those are the only two. Those are the only two. Like everybody else, like I have a top 10 list and all that, but like everyone else, like it's not in order. It's just whatever. Yeah. But I have those are the two. Like I want these two characters, and like it just, I think for Ashra's case specifically, it's just like you need that. You need like I just feel like she's needed now. Like you can't keep ignoring characters like that who are heavily tied to the stories, to like the realms of where you're telling the stories at. Like it's just like, come on, man.
She's like the drummer of the band, bro.
Yeah.
She's like she's like one of the most important. She keeps the beat, she keeps it going behind the scenes. You don't know she's there. And she's winning wars and fighting battles that nothing is happening, but they indirectly affect you.
Yeah.
That's Ashra. And I would agree. She's my second. Serena's my first. Ashra's number 2. And they're, I mean, I want Serena more than Ashra, but they're very close. They're very close. Now, Natara, I would love to see Natara in the game.
One more thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear it.
Another potential thing is just Serena and Ashra team up. Like, just there's another potential storyline you can do. Like, what the fuck?
Bro,
like, it's so out there.
It is. There's so much you can do with Netherrealm. It's so cool that the Netherrealm is there. Sure, it's like it's the hell afterlife that
we're following, like we're so involved in the Netherrealm in these, like, with these modern stories, but it always has to do with just like evil versions of the characters that we like. It's just Revenant bullshit. I'm just like, do something new, man. Do something that's interesting.
See, and I like it flipped. So I know that, because I mean, you gotta be a little bit of a sadist to like Mortal Kombat, but just a little. But it's I've
Especially
always
when
been
you're like when you're talking about like hell, like oh yeah, I really want this to happen in hell. Like hell is like super fucking cool. Like they gotta really like
yeah.
yeah, it's super
No,
I get
as
what
I
you're saying.
mean, I've always been drawn towards the light. I've always been drawn towards the, like my favorite hero of all time is Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And Aragorn, the noble knight who sticks true to his honor, is awesome to me. And I feel like that has honestly been lost over the past, like, I would say 20 years, pretty much since Lord of the Rings been out, because we love Deadpool, we love the anti-hero, we love I think I'm pretty sure that Liu Kang originally was not a pacifist, but he refused to murder.
No, he was a pacifist. Yeah.
Okay.
He was a pacifist until like the second game is where he started to really get violent. I don't know if he actually killed in that game. In terms of the lore, I wouldn't. I somebody would have to fact check me on that.
Yeah.
But I know like
Comment down below.
Yeah, I know MK2 Liu Kang definitely got a lot more violent, but
He
MK1 total pacifist. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was really cool to, even in a game as violent as it was for its time. I mean, it's gotten significantly worse, but and that's the other thing. That's, I mean, not necessarily. I guess it can go into character design. Like, tone down the fatalities, please. Like, dude, tone.
Okay.
I want him to tone it down, but that's for for another time. But no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was nothing. It was fine.
No, I was like, I want him to tone it down. But yeah, it's like having that. Like, if I would like to see characters like emerge from the depths of hell to bring themselves up to the light, and I like to see characters like Liu Kang who stick to their honor and true noble values, and to do that. And it's like, it kind of like, I don't like to see when characters fall. So when you see, Liu Kang become a revenant and become evil, that was just like, oh no, it's like, I don't like that.
Especially when he didn't need to. He didn't need to die.
Yeah, I know, but he didn't. But it's like, that's why I think Serena and Ashra, I'm very intrigued by those characters, because they're like, there could be a better place we can go.
Yeah,
like, we don't have
from hell. They started from the worst of the worst, and they don't want to be that. They want to transcend. That's what makes those characters very interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the difference is that Ashra, that's her mission. Her mission is like, but like, see, like, Serena wants to escape. She wants to just live a life that's not in the Netherrealm. She wants she doesn't want to be in a place of service for people like Quan Chi and all that, and she just wants to escape. Ashra is like a little bit more hardcore. She'll be in hell, and guess what? I'll stay in here and I'll fuck you motherfuckers up with my goddamn sword, and I'll fuck you and I'll fuck you and I'll fuck you that like with my Chris.
Yeah.
And then I'll transcend, because that's how it happens. That's how it works. So like, that's the difference between them two.
Right.
So yeah, I like both of them are great. Both of them are great. Like, like the yin and the yang. Both of them are, like, in terms of like Netherrealmers who want to rise up from the bottom. Like, I like those two, the contrast, and so that's why I'm really hoping, or I would really like to see them two kind of like team up, or them to interact in some way.
So and this is just like a side fan fiction of mine, is like I said, rising from the depths of hell, or like overcoming your past sins to make yourself a better person. Frost is a villain. She'll always be a villain. I get that. If I wrote Frost, it would be Frost overcomes her arrogance and her ignorance and succumbs to listening to Kuai Liang to actually become a great leader, and overcomes her arrogance to become the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei, passed down from Kuai Liang to Frost. Like, that's how I would have wrote her. Now, I know she's a villain, and that will never happen, and a lot of people are probably going to disagree with that. That's fine. But
See,
that's
to
out.
me, like I remember somebody asked me this in a viewer AMA that I
Hmm.
did in my last live stream, and they said like, would you like to see Frost redeem, kind of like in the same way that you said? And I
Hmm.
said I don't know if I really would, because I think it's a very nice and interesting character trait for Frost to be the Lin Kuei reject. You know, the combat kid who got kicked out of the clan. You know,
Hmm.
there are ways to make her grow as a character. I agree. You're like, you always got to have the character at least go somewhere. You know, progress
Right.
somewhere and all that. And I can see definitely like I can definitely like be open to the idea of them like actually getting to where they are. But I don't know if like her like, okay, well, I calmed down now. I talked to my therapist, and I'm ready to join the
Yeah.
Lin Kuei again. And I don't know if I don't know if I really want that story for Frost.
No,
I'm not here to
yeah.
shit on your like fan fiction or
No,
anything like that.
no.
It's
It was like,
it's
and
just
it's
that
not like
like
a fan fiction
yeah,
that I like wrote down or
yeah,
anything,
like I
but
know I
it's
kind
like,
of feel bad now, but
no, it's fine. It's that is pretty much the story of a creator. It's like knowing that people are not going to like some of the things that you create, and that's fine. And I get that, you know, I'm open to construction and rejection.
yeah,
But right, we'll kind of have to be, but
yeah.
but yeah, that's if I wrote Frost, and like I said, I understand that she'll never be that villain. Now, not the therapist thing. It's like kind of like it's kind of like humbling herself, realizing her.
I didn't literally mean talk to a therapist, by the way. It was,
Yeah, I know.
it was an analogy.
I know. So,
just
but
to
yeah,
get that clear.
but you can imagine just Frost like sitting back. She's like, "Well, when I was 6, my father, you know, he like that.
What's the therapist? Be somebody like Johnny
some
or
guy in a
something.
some guy in like a Lin Kuei outfit, just sitting back there, just be like, yeah. So tell me more about your mom. You know, I can see it. But anyway, but yeah. So yeah, about. So you talked about you've already made your top 10 video, and
Yeah.
that's why we were talking about.
I can
like,
go over it if you want context. If you, I don't know.
You can throw it out there, but it's like the point is that it's like everything we're talking about now is why roster is important.
Mm-hmm.
Is because we're talking about all the potential and all the things that we want to see and all the things we would like to see, and you know, even though Liu Kang like died or became evil and everything, and eventually was redeemed in Mortal Kombat 11, who became Fire God Liu Kang.
Yeah,
it's just like, even if you know that happens, but it's kind of like the same thing as when, like, okay, let's go back to Lord of the Rings, when Frodo was supposed to throw the ring into the fire and he chose not to and turned around. I felt Sam when he's like, no, you know, like when Liu Kang went evil, even though I didn't want that to happen, it wasn't necessarily like a bad thing, because you're still kind of like, no, like Liu Kang, no, you know, like
it's
that,
part of the story. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
or
it's
like,
the point.
I mean,
It's
if
supposed to feel that way.
Yeah, it's like kind of like did you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, are you going to?
You know what? I'm talking to somebody who loves Game of Thrones, and eventually they're probably going to force me to watch it.
Okay,
so yeah,
I'm not going to ruin it for you, but if anybody is watching Red Wedding, things happen you didn't want to happen, they happened, and you're just like, no, like why why did that happen, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, when you'll realize when you get there, I don't want to, you know,
okay,
I
heard of that term, red wedding, so like I'm in for something. I'm in for something.
Yeah, you're in for it. But but anyway, it's just like sometimes, you know, like those bad things happen, like that are a part of the story, that you're just like, you know, you don't like that it happened, but it happened and made it that much more interesting because you felt it.
Yeah,
you know, you felt it hardcore, bro. So it's just but anyway, your top 10. What's your top 10?
So again, the only ones that are in order are number 1 and 2. Everybody else not really in order. I don't really care. Like, this isn't who I want the most. That's not who I want. It's just these are my top 10 characters that I want besides the first 2 order. Number 10 is Borite Cho. Number 9 is Serena. 8 is Kintaro. 7 is Onaga. And I remember I said in the video, I cheated with number 6 and 5. I don't think 6 is a little bit of a cheat, but number 6 is either of the chameleons. I don't care which one, just either male chameleon or female chameleon. Or I mean, I'll take both.
Was it you who said, like, if you're gonna do some sort of Triborg thing?
Yeah, I said
I
that
agree.
if
I thought that was good. I thought that's a great idea.
yeah, like if they're going to do a Triborg type of character, I do think these two characters are a perfect fit for that.
I do not think variations are going to come back at all, but I can see
Neither
something.
do I.
I can see something like if you chose a character by pressing like down and start, you can get the chameleon with a K,
Or they just have their moves, just all of them in one move set, you know? Like it's just,
yeah,
you don't have to
like
make
that.
it too complicated, but like a character where like there are multiple it's like a character that has multiple things from different characters, from multiple characters in one slot. The Triborg concept, like the TMNT.
Yeah.
The TMNT were legitimately different characters. MKX had the variations, but like with MK12, it could be like, you know, all the moves are just there in the move set and all that. So, but anyways, number 5 is number 5. Again, I cheated. Sector and Cyrax. I want them. Number 4 is Smoke. I prefer Cyber Smoke. Cyber Smoke is my favorite cyborg, but I wouldn't mind if we got Human Smoke. And also, like, you know, to please everybody, just give us skins of both human and robot. Just make everybody happy.
And that was a thing, and we'll get to that in character design too. Was that I think that even if I think people have to kind of get past this whole like, well, let's say it did take place in the Kung Lao era, and you did get Smoke, Sector, and Cyrax, but they're all human form. That doesn't mean that you can't have costumes that aren't cyborgs.
No, just have a cyborg.
Just because it took place in that, but when you play the gameplay, like let's say you play whether it's online or do a ladder or do whatever, that doesn't mean you can't not have that. You know, just because it's not in the story.
Yeah. So skin. You know, like there's
exactly
skins in the game that are not in the story. We don't look twice. So anyways, number 3 is Li Mei, and then again number 2 and number 1. Number 2 is Astra, and number 1 is Havoc. So yeah, those are the 10 characters. A little bit 10 characters because I cheated with 6 and 9. 6 and 5. Those are the 10 characters.
A soft 13.
Yeah. Those are the characters that I want to see. Like if I get like at least 5 of these characters, I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be good. Yeah.
So I was a big Havoc fan during 3D era. He's in my top 10, but he's not as high as yours is. Kind of like our Serena's and Havoc are switched.
Yeah.
And everything, because I definitely want Havoc in that game and explore the Chaos Realm, and I really liked his character and everything. But mine was Serena number 1, Ashra, sorry, Natara, because I'm not reading off of a list. Natara, Li Mei, and most of these are from the 3D era. Smoke, but I like Human Smoke better. That's just my personal opinion. I like Cyborg Smoke, not discrediting that at all, but I liked Human Smoke. But if you do have the Sub-Zero Smoke, you're gonna have to have Sector and Cyrax.
Yeah, of course.
They have to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think no matter what, they just have to be there. Like, I think they're required for this next game.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
I think you can make a good argument that they should be staples because they're very, very popular, and they're just a huge like mascot for Mortal Kombat 3. One of the probably I don't know if that's the most popular trilogy game because a lot of people say MK2. MK3 was just incredibly popular, and and the two cyborgs
Ultimate MK3 was really popular.
Ultimate MK3,
MK3 initially was not at all.
Yeah.
They learned very quickly not to disclude Scorpion from a game ever again.
Yeah, UMK3. But like they're just mascots of that era and that game, and I just like I don't know if you really should include not include them in future rosters. I feel like they have to be on rosters.
Yeah. Now. And another thing that I think NRS really, really needs to do is do not include characters in the story if you're not going to include them as playable characters.
Yeah. Do not include characters. I don't know. I I am okay with NPCs. I get like seeing them and they're like candy things that you can't have and you really want, especially if they're the characters that you really,
Uh-huh.
really, really want, and you can't have them and they're never going to be in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but from a storytelling perspective, I think you gotta allow NPCs to like roam free. You know, like I
Okay.
don't want to like if I want a NetherRealm story,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say like I had the option to have Ashra show up in the story
Mm-hmm.
because she needed help because the Earthrealmers needed help,
Uh-huh.
restoring their souls, or they needed insider information or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was given that option, but she was never going to be playable in that game versus she doesn't show up at all and the story is kind of like half-assed a little bit because it's
Mm-hmm.
just you're restricting yourself to something that you don't really have to restrict yourself to
Mm-hmm.
because of a roster slot. I'm going to take the story where she's an NPC because at least the story is is flowing correctly. It's
Mm-hmm.
flowing the way it should be. You're allowing yourself to,
I can agree with
tackle
that.
the
I
you're
can see
allowing
that.
yourself to tackle these stories
Mm-hmm.
that you couldn't do if you were forced to have those characters on a roster, but you can do it 100%
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they're not going to be on the roster, that they don't have to be. So yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
I'm okay with NPCs because they just, again, they allow the story to flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think having the cyborgs in MK11 was great. I mean, having Sub-Zero have having a Sub-Zero versus a cyborg story in MK11, just even if it was small, thought it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I like their appearances. So
Yeah, some of the things that I can understand why Smoke was left out of Mortal Kombat X.
mhm.
Same thing with Fujin, but there's also things like I don't know why Sindel was not, because you
Mhm.
actually played against her.
Yeah.
Like I kind of wish
I think
like
the biggest is Rain. Rain played more of a role in the story than like half the cast
yeah,
and the roster. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's what I would like to see. Now I can understand your perspective. It's actually is you're kind of right. I'm sorry, you are right. That's good. You are right. I would rather have them in there as an NPC and have the story flow and expand and grow and not be playable than just, oh, we can't include them because we need them to be playable. So I can understand that.
Story as a result,
Yeah,
So.
I can understand that. Okay, now flip this around.
Okay.
One thing I miss is monster bosses and sub bosses that are not playable.
Okay.
Such as Mataro.
So you're a fan of boss characters not being playable.
Yes. I like the fact that Mataro from Mortal Kombat 3 was such a big deal to beat him and everything, but he wasn't playable.
Yeah.
And so I kind of miss having the monster that you had to fight at the end,
I understand that. I personally I think I'm over that. Like I think I'm over like the bosses not being playable. Like I want to play as these characters.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I do. Like I want to be in control. I want to feel that way. As long as they are like top tier in on competitively and all that, I think it's okay. Because a lot of people like you, I'm not saying you're saying this specifically, but a lot of people who are generally fans of not having the bosses playable say that because they don't like it. They don't like that that when they're playable, they are weak and they don't feel as strong as a boss as they should be. And I totally get that, but like solve that problem by making them top tier, making not super overpowered, because
I think that would be a problem competitively.
I don't know. There's top tier characters all the time, like so
no,
like
it's
you
true.
can always make a boss character one of those top tier characters.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. But as far as like because Motaro was such a big deal in Mortal Kombat 3 because he was the big bad monster that you had to fight at the end, similar to Goro, similar to Kentaro, and they weren't playable. And because they were the big bad monster, the dragon at the top of the tower, essentially, that you had to defeat, and instead of defeating that to get to the princess, you went to fight an even harder boss, so, but I think there was kind of like there was something like kind of mythos about it that I kind of miss, and now it's just like, okay, you beat Garrus and then you beat Kronika, or you know what I mean? It was like I didn't.
Yeah, I think generally, like, I definitely in agreement is that there isn't really good sub bosses in these NetherRealm games.
No.
Like Goro was a sub boss on the towers, but not in the story.
Yeah,
and Goro was also playable, and it didn't feel right because he wasn't really like there. All these other boss characters that we're talking about, they were there. They were part of everything and all that. But Goro really wasn't. Like MK11, we had Cetrion, MK9 did have it, Goro and Kentaro were there, and they weren't playable. But MKX and MK11, no. Like, it was like Cetrion, Garrus. Like, it's just like they don't feel like these sub boss characters, they don't feel like boss characters.
Yeah. And that's
I understand that. I understand what you're saying.
And that's kind of what I was getting at, was like, they were exactly what I said, like the dragon at the top of the tower, and essentially that you kind of had to beat. And Shang Tsung was a little bit different on that, because it's like you beat Motaro, and dude, he was like freaking hard. He was big, to go on to beat Shao Kahn, who was even bigger and harder. So you know what I mean? Yeah. So
true.
Yeah, that he was unique in that sense.
If you could even get there in MK2.
Yeah.
We're talking about MK3.
MK3.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, but like an MK1.
Point still stands with MK2 because you couldn't even get to the subway. You couldn't get to Kentaro.
No, you couldn't. But I mean, it works the same thing with MK2. But MK1 was like you got to Goro, you beat Goro, and it's like then you got to Shang Tsung. But anyway, I kind of missed that. That was one thing I kind of hope that we can bring in, but that kind of goes into the whole like content of things, is like making content for the single player.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I understand both sides. I'm like, you know what? I think we can have the bosses playable in 2023. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Now with Goro and Kentaro, that's a little different because you can make them playable. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying it works because they can be big bodies versus people like Motaro. That's going to be a little hard. Giant
I understand.
Horse body. Yeah, that's gonna be a little hard. But
I want them to rise to the challenge, though. I just want to see them do it. I want to see them do it. Yeah.
It'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting. Let's not do what they did in Armageddon, where they gave him.
Nope. Nope, not that. I'm asking for all four legs.
Yes,
all four legs. Give me all legs. Of them.
Everything. Yeah. But and now, just as I think we were kind of talking about earlier, costume designs was character roster, and just as important as character roster is character design.
The way the characters look.
The way they look. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You can have the most OP champion in the world, and I will win every single match with this character. And if it looks like garbage, I won't play them.
I won't play them. Yep.
Ain't happening. And I'm competitive, and if I will not play competitively with characters I think look like trash, that's just not happening to me.
Yeah, so, I'm in total agreement. I mean, like you need to. The characters need to look, number one, like their classic selves. We already know at this point. We already know how we like them to look like. But they just at the end of the day, they need to look like the characters. They need to represent who they are. The character costume, especially the default one, needs to tell the audience needs to tell the player a little bit about who they are as a character. And when you're just making this, and then when you're throwing this like gear robot ass barf bullshit like on like with Injustice 2 with some of MK11's character designs. Like it looks so bad. And it pisses me off, honestly. Like it pisses me off when there's like casuals. Well, I wouldn't say casual, but just like people. I don't know. I see a lot of defenders of gear and the way they look. I remember I made like a short TikTok of like the ugliest gear loadouts in MK11, and I just and they were so bad. But someone was like, "Oh, that one actually looks good." I'm like, it was a Scarlet one where she had like a big ass huge mask, like helmet that was like bug eyes, and she was covering her entire like thing, and her colors were brown and white, and I'm just like, what do you mean that looks good? That looks like trash.
Are we looking at the same picture?
How is like okay, that could look cool for another character, maybe.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Scarlet. We're talking about Scarlet here. That does not look like Scarlet. Scarlet, that is not who she is. That is never who she will be. And I don't want to hear you tell me that that's a good character design. I think a lot of people I think most people, like, I think your audience and my audience know this, but man, for the people who like kind of just accept trash, I'm just like, do you not understand how important it is to make your characters look and make them represent who they are as an actual character? You know, like that's just how you design a character. Like, and it's not even just related to MK. That's how you just design a character in anything, you know? So, oh man.
You know who does this to the T? Because I know we're talking about Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Dude, every single one of their characters in their costumes represent who they are to a T. They do such a good job with it. And then with Street Fighter 6 that's coming out, and Ken, you know, with his thing, it's like, oh, Ken is on the run. So of course he's not going to look in his red gi. He's going to be in like kind of that, you know, in what he's wearing that. And I was like, dude, they're designing these characters so well.
But it still looks like Ken. That's the thing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Ken.
100%. Yeah. No, they do, but they do such a good job with it. And I feel like Mortal Kombat has done that either super well or not at all.
Yeah.
And it's not game by game, it's character by character.
I'd say modern MK, not the past games, because I think that the designs from MK1 to the game in Armageddon, I think they've mostly been really good. Now, some of them are reused from other games, but most of them have been pretty okay. But I think in the modern games, it's almost like, we were talking about this before we were recording. It's almost like it's either a great design or it's absolute fucking trash. It's like literally no in between. I think MK11 is the worst offender of that thing right there.
Because personally, I think Scorpion has never looked better. This has been my favorite Scorpion. And I liked also how they had his traditional.
I'm not a fan of the random ass red, but like for the most part, I do like him.
I like hooded Scorpion.
Yeah.
And Sub-Zero, honestly, this is the best I've ever seen it. In my opinion, I thought Sub-Zero looked great. And I liked also how in the story, since they did do the timeline thing, when they brought back younger Scorpion, he had his original costume. I thought that was kind of great how they, you know, applied that. And also the costumes between like Johnny Cage and older Johnny Cage, he looked very dad. And then he looked like a dad. And then younger Johnny Cage looked like a 90s action star.
I did like the jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool, you know. And so I think they did some great job. The Noob Saibot looking like a wraith, I was like, that's freaking sick. You know, I thought he looked great. Yeah, and then there was Melina.
Honestly, I didn't mind Melina. I didn't mind Melina. Yeah, I thought it was just a simple
default Melina. I thought was decent.
Okay, we're talking about default. Yeah,
default Melina costume. I still probably would have done it a little differently, but
which one are you talking about in terms of like bad? Like which one are you talking
about? Like Tarkatan Melina.
Oh, I don't even know if I agree there either. Really? I actually really like that. Yeah, like it's a nice thing to see. Like like Melina. Like, what if Melina spent more time with the Tarkatan tribe? Like, what if she expressed a little bit more of her Tarkatan self. I think it expresses a lot about that side of her character. So I don't know. I actually don't mind it.
Let's try to get a better example then. Okay. So who would you say in
Cabal?
Okay, so Cabal. Cabal, you thought that was a terrible design.
I don't even know what the fuck is going on. Like, I don't have the option to have him make his I don't have the option to have to make him have long hair. He didn't have a classic looking costume. Like, his shirtless but also like geared up and tubed up look was really, it just looked really ugly and stuff. His ponytail and his human form. I like the concept of having an unmasked Cabal. I like that, but give me the option to make him look like his classic self. There is literally no option for him to do that. The closest thing you can get to like a decent looking Cabal is his Jason skin, his MK, like his Halloween skin, which was a Jason inspired skin. I'm just like, so it has to be like a guest character looking costume in order for him to look remotely like Cabal. Like, really? Oh god, what's another character that I think gear is absolute Frost is
oh gosh,
garbage, absolute fucking it's just robot bullshit barf all over the screen.
Her classic skin I thought was cool.
I like her classic skin,
but that's because it's her classic skin and she looks good in her classic skin.
It's just because it looks like Frost. That's literally it. That's literally it.
Yeah,
like, it just looks like the character. That's literally it. It's not even it's nothing special.
They jacked her, dude. Why is her hair comb over?
Yeah,
her hair is like back.
One of the coolest things was icicles. Was like icicle ass hair. Yeah, like why would you remove one of the most iconic things about Frost?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing that it kind of goes with the Cabal thing. It's like he's that's his iconic look. Can you take away his iconic look?
Yeah, oh man, there's so many. I'm thinking of one more. Like who's a character that didn't look like themselves? I just like maybe Scarlet. I mean, like,
so here's the thing. I actually was, I thought I liked
Nightwolf one.
You didn't like Nightwolf?
The default design? No, hell no. What the fuck is that biker gear?
Take away his. I actually liked Nightwolf. I didn't like the biker the bike helmet.
Yeah, the biker helmet.
That was weird.
And the color scheme is just. Why is he like baby blue? Like that's not Nightwolf's look. It's brown and jean denim blue, like with his jeans and stuff. Why is he all dressed in blue? And why does he look like he has this biker gear showing up and all that? So it was classic Nightwolf looked perfect in MK11 though. Yeah. So
Scarlet was a little weird because I thought that I actually liked the character design for Scarlet if it wasn't Scarlet.
Yeah, it's a good design, and it's just.
But her black, like the what's it called with when she had her hair up in a ponytail and her black MKX comics costume.
Oh,
that was freaking sick. Yeah, that was an awesome costume.
Well, I guess like see, like most of these characters have the option to make them look like their classic selves or like make them look really good. A lot of them do, but I'm just talking. I think. I don't know if we were talking about default costumes or not. That's what I was just thinking of, like default ones.
Okay, so
the ones that you first see on the screen.
So for the sake of the conversation, for now we'll stick with just default costumes.
Default costumes.
Okay.
Well, then the ones that I would say is probably like still default. Well, Revenant Cabal does look good. I just wish it looked. I just wish there was a human version of that. I don't like MK11 Katana. I don't know what's going on there. Revenant Lou, a lot of people like it. I was never a fan of Revenant Lou. I don't like it. Who else? Shiva's is okay.
I didn't like Shiva's design at all.
It's
like
I guess I don't have enough investment in the character to really care.
Yeah.
But
I think it's kind of it's strange in the era that we're in. Okay, because I feel like the male characters don't, except for like few, but Cabal, But I think the female characters are the ones who kind of
ate shit the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
Like the full Revenant Jade looks Revenant Jade. It's just Revenant bullshit and all that.
yeah, because to me,
like,
Adenians now Temp did this perfectly. Was that the moment that you took away the character designs that we know and that we love in most of the Adenians, and you made them look a little bit differently, or made them look a lot differently, was the moment that you took me out of Fantasyland. And
yeah.
So it's like, I don't, and I know a lot of people are sick of it, and I don't want to bring it up too much about the whole covering up, because we all know that MK9 was just a little bit over the top or way over the top.
Some characters. Yeah. I think it was, I don't know if I want to get into discussion.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it. So
it's like, I don't think we're going to disagree. It's just that, oh my God, just, okay.
It's just over. It's just the conversation's kind of just over.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too far into it. Yeah, that's why I was like, but it's like, I think it was weird with Shiva specifically, because I've only known Shiva a certain way, and you completely changed her. Now, if you were to go to Shiva according to lore and according to how she is as a character, Shiva from MK11 probably looks the way that she should have looked all along.
Yeah, maybe. It's just that I think Shokans traditionally in the lore don't wear so much armor, because their brute strength and their might and their will does all the strength and the protection for them.
Yeah.
And so that's just the nature of Shokans. And when you're having them armored up, like they're like armored up, I don't mind them having like a shield or anything like that. Like that's fine, or like a spear or something. But like when they're really like covered up that way, like it's just like, dude, like you're losing the identity of a lot of these characters. And that's the thing with character design, like since we're on the subject, is that you never want to lose the identity of the character, especially on the default costume. Like it's just you're just showing people a version of the character that's not actually the character. So it's just man,
I think that kind of goes into, not to get on the whole revealing thing too much, but that goes into what Melina was. And that's why I didn't like MK11's Melina, because that looked like that looked too much like what Katana would have looked like versus what Melina would have looked like. So,
are you talking about MK11 Melina? Default?
Yes. Okay. Because it wasn't a bad costume, to say the least. I just didn't feel like I feel like MK9 or MK Deception and Armageddon is what Melina should look like. Now, Jade, on the other hand, I really liked Deception and Armageddon Jade. And when I think of Adenians, yeah, exactly. When I think of Adenians, both male and female, I think of like kind of Mediterranean or like Greek gods, And so when with Katana, I like my personally, like one of my favorite Katana skins is actually the tournament from MKX. I really like that. I thought that fit them perfectly.
I don't think Katana should ever be showing her belly. I don't really like that. That just seems way too out of character for her. But I do like how it's like let's redo her MK9 design, because MK9 design was a little bit over the top. So let's redo it. And I think
I liked it, but not for the reasons why it's Katana. yeah. But I get it. Yeah,
but yeah, like tournament Katana is. I think it's decent enough. I just don't like her showing her belly. That's never been Katana.
That's fair. And I understand. No, and I understand that. But as when they wear the kind of clothing that they wear, Jade, Katana, Tanya, all the Adenians, including like Rain, I look at them to kind of dress that way.
Yeah.
Because I look at him as kind of Mediterranean, or like I said, like Greek or Roman gods, because that's like, that's kind of just their aesthetic from Adenia. And that's the way I've always looked at them, as, that way. And so when I got like Jade's default costume, I was just like, she just doesn't look like an Adenian anymore. You know, so that's kind of the way I felt about it. Same thing with Katana, even though I actually
do. Since it's a Revenant, it's Revenant Jade.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think that honestly, with MK11, whether they're Revenant or living, it both fits the story regardless. So I think that can fit in both ways of this of this topic. But as far as Jade goes, Jade and Katana both go. It's like both their costumes. And so here's the thing. I really liked their character as far as their physique and as far as their face and their ethnicity. I thought that was all fantastic. That was perfect.
Yeah.
But when it came to their costumes, they didn't look like Edenians to me.
Yeah, if you weren't picking the classic costumes.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I think Katana. I think you're definitely right with Katana, especially with her her alive version, her non-revenant version, the story mode. It just looks like a jumpsuit. Like I don't even know what it's supposed to be.
The living one.
Yeah, the living room. I'm like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. And then like
kind of Catgirl. Or Catgirl, I'm sorry, Catwoman, kind of Catgirl, like kind of Catwoman, like, you know what I mean?
I'm just like, I don't
Catgirl could work too. I mean,
it's just like it just doesn't. I don't even know what like story mode Katana is supposed to be. Like it just looks like a weird jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Hooded Jade. I like the idea of having Jade with a hood. I love that idea, but everything else is like super layered up, and I'm just like, I don't really know if this is, especially since she has brown on her. Like that's her story mode costume is having brown and green. There's a lot of brown in that costume. Like why? Like why is
might as well be special forces at that point?
Yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck is that? Like, you know, it's so
I would
weird.
really like to see them do Jade justice, because the reason why I've always liked Jade as a character and Jade as deception in Armageddon. And that's the other thing I'd really like to see is, like, let's say it goes the Liu Kang route. Now you got Katana, who's a god. Okay. And she's most likely going to favor Jade. And it would be really cool to see that play out in the lore. I'd really like to see that happen. Assuming that this is the Liu Kang, Kung Lao era ending that I was proposing. But I would like to see Jade play the assassin role that she's supposed to be, because I liked Jade's gameplay in MK11. I liked it in MK9, even though it was really low tier.
Yeah.
But I feel like Jade has never played as like an assassin kind of character. You know, it's always been
saying. She should be that way.
Yeah, and I get the poll and stuff like that, and I like that. But yeah, I just feel like she's a little bit more. I'd like her to play like kind of more like a Buki from Street Fighter 6 or Street Fighter. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said 6, but it'd be close. She was in 6. But just like a Buki from Street Fighter, or I mean, speaking of like Kimberly from Street Fighter 6, that, you know, that's going to be coming out, just like a ninja, like a real assassin style character. You know what I mean? And I just don't feel like she plays like that. So
yeah, I mean, like, like, you know, who the character is, you know, in the story should reflect that in gameplay. You know, like it should match. They should always match for sure.
Yeah, like Scorpion matches. He always matches himself perfectly. You know, and I really liked in MK11 how they made Sub-Zero very like karate style. You know what I mean? I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. It goes back to the Shotokan stance in the 3D era.
No, that was really cool, and I really liked speaking of stances and everything, Jackie Muay Thai stance. I thought that was super cool. Because that was one thing that drew me into Mortal Kombat 3D, especially, was that the martial arts aspect of it. But let's see. I was not a fan of Cassie, Jackie, or any of those designs. I think Sonya probably is the only one that made any kind of sense. And they all kind of made sense
Well,
and everything.
Sonya's did, and I liked how like it's
Mhm.
the same from her MKX costume, but
Mhm.
like it's more blue, and I'm happy about that because it was gray as fuck in MKX, and I think
Yeah.
the aesthetic in MKX was all gray, black,
Mhm.
brown. It was all like really dark colors and stuff like that. I actually don't mind casting design in MK11 or
Mhm.
Jackie's. They look very GI Joe to me. They don't look like generic special forces.
Yeah. I think it's just because
So
there's just too many special forces is
yeah,
is my thing.
yeah, I guess so. It's just I don't know. I think they probably cut back on special forces kind of stuff
Mhm.
in 11. Like, I think there's like what there's. I don't know if you want to count Johnny as special forces, but there's Jax, there's
Mhm.
Sonya, there's Cassie, there's Jackie. Oh shit, that is too much. Okay, never mind. Okay, never mind. And there's
Yeah.
I guess Aaron Black is a black dragon now, so I guess Aaron Black special forces kind of go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you like to see Aaron? Speaking of Aaron Black, would you like to see that Aaron Black kind of
No.
come back? Okay,
No,
so you're like, I'm
not
done with
Black
Aaron
Dragon,
Black.
not Black, yeah, not Black Dragon, Aaron Black. No,
Yeah.
I want the 500-year-old cowboy. That one, the one who's been
Mhm.
around for a long, long time and all that. I want that one. I want that
Yeah.
Aaron Black.
So here's the big one, Devora.
Do you like it or dislike it?
No. I'm asking you. Do you
Oh,
want to see Devora come back?
do I want to see Devora come
Mhm.
back? If I'm being honest, I think the Devora hate is kind of forced. I mean, I get why people hate her.
Mhm.
Like, she's killing these classic characters she has no right to kill, and she doesn't suffer consequences. That's really stupid.
Mhm.
But if she wasn't doing that, I mean, if she
Devora's
wasn't
the
doing
Nickelback of Mortal Kombat.
if she
Like,
wasn't doing the things that we pissed her off that pissed us off about her, I don't really think anybody would really have a problem with her.
yeah.
I think is a very interesting. I think she is a very, very interesting addition to Mortal Kombat in terms of new characters, like a bug
Mhm.
character who does all this crawly spider stuff, creepy crawlies
Yeah.
things. And
It
I
was
think
cool to
she's
see
very,
like a
very unique.
monster, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very unique. It's very she's very unique.
Uh-huh.
Would I like to see her back? I mean, no, I think no. I think it just she riles up way too many fans. She pisses way too many people off.
Mhm.
Let's
Like, who
okay,
really
let's
killed Jarek, you know? It's like,
yeah, yeah, like no, Gerard, you're yeah.
did I say
Yeah.
Jarek? My
Yeah, you
bad.
said Jarek.
Gerard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gerard, yeah. Yeah,
Sindel's
that
first
shit was
husband, the king
bullshit.
of Edenia.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Yeah,
yeah.
I know, like
It's like, who
Devore
really
killing
killed?
Gerard, like yeah,
Yeah.
it is
She
bullshit.
killed
But
she killed everybody. She
yeah,
has legitimately killed like half the roster. And
it's so like why are you like it's so forced. She's
mhm.
literally the definition of a Mary Sue if you want to talk about it. So no, at the end of the day, no. I do like her character because of how like
Mhm.
especially the concept and the idea of who she is. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, no, she can rest. She can rest.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
So
mind her in Battle of the Realms. Like, she just showed up for a fight and she was a side guy. Like, I didn't like see her. I'm like, oh my god, I fucking hate this character. Like, I don't get like like, it was just she was there not doing the things that pissed me off about her. So yeah.
yeah. No, that's very true. But yeah, so going like to end on the character designs and everything. So you how would you like to see some of your favorite characters? So you wanted like Havoc, back, especially in Ashura. Would you like to see these characters have their classic looks to them, or would you like some kind of modern look?
I think you have to, especially with a character like Havoc. Like, what is there to change? He's already perfect. Why would you need to change it? Like,
because
so,
I think I know that they're going to. That's the thing.
They're going to.
Yeah.
But like, I want the option to also change to the way they looked in the originally look. Like, let me see the character. Let me play as the character in the version that I first known them as.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it just depends on the character. Like I don't think anybody would mind if we had like basically the same looking Havoc or anything like that, or the same looking Ashra. Like they don't need to be changed. I know they're going to, but at least give me the option to have them like make me switch to their their first iteration. So yeah, it just depends on the character. But yeah, no, of course I would love to. Of course I would like to see them in their classic subs. It just depends on the character for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's all I got, man. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you wanted to bring up?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna talk about character design, I think one thing that I will say is that I think Shaolin Monks is probably the only MK game where all the classic characters look absolutely perfect.
Bro.
And if you're going to model, if you're going to use any framework on how you design those characters that were in that game, you go to Shaolin Monks. I get that, I get the stupid, I don't get it, but I know there's this mindset going around like, oh, like they look like spandex, they look like superhero-y in the original games. I'm like, okay, number one, fuck you, and number two, fine, okay, whatever. Look, okay, if you want a modern version of the character, if you want a modern, like, upgraded, like, look on, the classic look, Shaolin Monks. Shaolin Monks is a perfect balance of modern, realistic, and also fantasy with those characters.
Fantasy is the keyword there.
Yeah.
Fantasy, when it comes to character design, fantasy is the keyword there.
Yeah. Like, I get the realistic approach. That's okay, but I don't care that somebody's fighting in heels. It's a fucking video game. This isn't real life. It's a fucking video game. And so I think, again, Shaolin Monks had the perfect balance of realism, fantasy, and retaining their classic looks, and keeping their identity. Like, you look at the character, that's the character.
Like, I've besides DA, that's the best I've ever seen Sonya look.
Yeah, Sonya looks perfect.
She looks perfect.
I don't like the thong that she's like, the thong is like sticking out. Like, that's a little bit much, but that's
it's
very
funny.
Minimal compared to like everything.
It's funny. That's such like an 80s, 90s thing. And I think that when Shaolin Monks came out, like, that wasn't like a thing, but it was really funny because I always feel like, especially in like 2002 when DA came out, and even Sonya, she still had like the thong going over her hips, kind of thing. And it was like, I was looking at it and I was like, dude, these guys are like at least 20 years out of what's fashionable right now, so I think they probably looked at, they took a look at what, they probably taken a look at like some kind of Corona poster, or like Budweiser poster that they saw in like the 80s, that you would see.
Back then they took just a little bit, they added a little bit of edge, a little bit of like, okay, that's a little bit too far with the female characters, but overall, I think they did a really good job back then. And again, if you're gonna model if you're gonna look at the classic characters and how you should design them, if you want a framework to work from, Shaolin Monks.
Shaolin Monks was perfect. Scorpion, Sub-Zero, they looked perfect.
Reptile, that's my favorite looking reptile.
Yeah. Liu Kang and Kung Lao both look perfect. Ermac. If you're gonna decide to spike somebody in the head, don't walk over and say, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Don't do that. Don't. And if you want to make unlockables, are you okay? If you want to make unlockables, don't make the most complicated unlockable that you can think of. Like, it was like, walk back here and then walk back over here, and then you have to walk and do a circle 3 times and then walk back into this room, and you're just like, dude, how did anybody figure that out is beyond me.
I know, right?
Still to this day, I'm just like, how did someone figure that out? But
they went through wild hoops for those to keep the secrecy alive.
Dude, exactly. But anyway, appreciate you. Thanks for coming along, dude. This was fun. And we'll talk to you soon. All right, bro?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Fun talk.
All right.